welcome back. You're watching Morning Live, and we have a special broadcast today, and we're taking a look at the class of 2017. They've been celebrating today, and they've started to get their results at their various centres. 75.1%. That's how many the percentage pass that we got on a national level, and we'll continue to explore what that means actually when you start sort of picking through. But one of the themes that started to come through already on this program is that of working together, partnerships, people coming together, and that could be parents, teachers and the students. But beyond that, support's also required from the private sector. What can they do to contribute? But also the public broadcaster has a unique role to play. And they've been doing amazing things, not just on our TV screens, but also through the SABC Foundation. Let's take a quick look.
The best and most important part of every man's education is that which he gives himself.
My name is Thabo Mabogoane. I'm 18 years old. Whilst growing up here, I just fell in love with numbers.
Ozimiseleyo nomntwana ozibopheleleyo kwimo yemfundo yakhe.
At school, I discovered that I was very good in maths.
Incwadi zona soloko sectani kwakhe. Ingakumbi incwadi ye-mathematics izibalo okanye i-accountants.
Not even his indigent background could stop him from dreaming big.
I just had a dream like to be a CA one day so that I can just change the situation at home.
Because he excelled in his matric here with 4 distinctions, SABC Foundation awarded Tlumelo with the bursary.
I didn't believe it at first, like I was so happy, I just can't describe the feeling at that moment.
Now, Tlumelo is a man in the making.
The course that I'm currently studying is BCom Accounting C3, which is for chartered accountants. It's a challenging course, but it's very nice.
He put in effort from day one, and I could see his marks going up. Initially, it was in the 60s, but in the end, he ended with a distinction.
I'm very proud of him.
Ndiyabulela kakhulu ku-SABC ngoba sincedile nathi sophuma ekuhluphekeni.
This feels like a blessing, to be here. I'm very happy and also at the same time very proud of myself, and thank you. I will say thank you.
SABC Foundation, inspiring greater possibilities.
So there you go, great story about what can be done when you change a young person's life. And the ripple effect is enormous because once he's enabled, he'll be able to enable generations of people below him. So that's just one of the things that the SABC does. But to speak to us a little bit more about that is the SABC Board Chairperson, Mr. Bongumusa Makhathini. Thank you so much for joining us. The SABC, as a public broadcaster, has quite a duty and quite a role to play in assisting in the education process.
Yes. Greetings to your listeners and to everybody, and congratulations to the top performers. SABC has a role to play. If you look at our mandate, we have a responsibility to educate, empower, inform, and entertain. And in the process of doing that, when it comes to education, we're able to access more than 80% of matriculants. If you look at the numbers, in 2017, we reached over 600,000 of learners in matric. And in that way, we are then able to partner with the Department of Education to drive curriculum and come up with other initiatives that can assist the matriculants. But also, we've been able, as the SABC, to use a number of platforms like your digital, radio, TV, and actually going out there, doing outreach program to basically support the learners in their education endeavor. So we have a critical role to play. In other instances, you find that the work we have to do has got no commercial viability. But because we're a public broadcaster, we have to do that to fulfill our mandate.
All right, and I would imagine that you're going to continue, when you're doing your budgets, to invest more in this area.
Definitely. I mean, you will know that part of SABC existence really is to empower society. And in other instances, when we allocate resources, we've got to prioritize those initiatives that makes a difference in society. And we'll continue to do that. And if you look at our budget and our plans going forward, there's quite a lot of plans we're planning around coming up with new apps to help with the career guidance, coming up with other apps to sort of help with the curriculum to make it easily accessible to all learners in our country.
All right, so that's the role the SABC is playing in terms of support and helping. I just want to chat once again to you, Minister. Retention is one area that we're concerned about. The NDP talks about trying to get to a point of 90%. We're not close to that yet, and I'm just wondering what some of the challenges are. Where are our students going? I know that 800,000 registered to write, but in the end, I think only 81% showed up. So something's happening from about grade 10 onwards, isn't there? That suddenly they get to grade 12 and there's a problem. How do we manage this?
Now, if you look at our statistics, as a country doing quite well until grade 10, we have a very high retention of over 80. The 20s, it's unfortunate to lose them because they're still young. We expect them to be still at school at the age of 16. The biggest problem comes after grade 10. And State South Africa did a study for us to really try and understand what is this phenomena that gives us almost 20% just a decline after grade 10. Amongst others, which is what we're trying to address, it's curriculum performance, where learners come with deficits throughout their system. By the time they go to the senior phase, they find it very difficult to cope with schooling and get discouraged and leave school. Other factors are social factors. They are growing, they're adolescents, they're 16 and very conscious of themselves. So it's identified poverty to say if they don't have proper uniforms, they get discouraged and embarrassed, they don't come. Some, by repeating a lot in the lower phases, are overaged, again they get discouraged. So we've identified quite a number of factors that really causes them to drop in such big numbers after grade 10. So in the lower phases, we don't have a problem. It's at this level at grade 10 where we have a major problem. And that's why we're addressing the curriculum redress to make sure that they're adequately prepared for them to cope with a more complicated curriculum in the senior phase. We're working with other departments to deal with the psychosocial factors, as growing young people who are vulnerable to all sorts of social pressures, drugs or alcohol, but just social decadence in communities. And at that age, they are very vulnerable. So again, it's to tighten our support for them at that very critical age where sometimes not only academic factors, but it's psychosocial, but it's also economic factors that are affecting them. Your responsibilities in poor communities where girl children become childminders when parents are working. Sometimes, as I say, they don't have adequate support at home. Parents are in urban areas, they're on their own. And at that stage, so it's already more of an age, it's economy, but also it's academic, and we're working closely with other sister departments to deal with that phenomenon. The 800 you're referring to, we said we registered 600 and something. So the numbers that didn't turn up in big numbers are your progressed learners, because in September we sometimes realize that they will not be able to sit for all subjects at the same time. And then encourage them to modularize. So some would have written only 3, that's why we can't report on them, and then they're going to write the other subjects in June. And some, as I say, it's people who are working had hoped that they will write, they were able to write. So it's not related to the dropout rate, but it's really factors that make them not to show up for exams. But the most serious one is the one after grade 10, when we lose quite suddenly a big number of them.
Okay. All right, so we're going to take another quick break, and then after that, there's that contentious issue of this 30%. We're going to get a sense of what do you need to get a National Senior Certificate? Is it of value? And what do these percentages mean? All of that after this.
From script to screen, from yelling action to taking you on a journey. Radio producers, script writers, on-air presenters, news reporters, sports analysts, keeping you informed, educated, and entertained. For us, it's not a job, it's a calling. We do this and more because you do your part. SABC TV licenses, made possible by you.
Why is there a dispute over who is the rightful heir to the throne?
What I can say is that Masindi is a woman. She's a girl child. Because I think that if she was a male, there's no way that anybody was going to dispute the fact that she is the rightful heir.
Do you recognize her as your rightful heir?
Yeah, no, I will definitely say that she is my daughter. She grew up there.
What is the intention?
I want my throne.
Join me in Port Said live every Monday to Thursday at 17:30.
Welcome back. You're watching a special broadcast on the matric results for 2017. In a short while, we're going to be going to the Eastern Cape to find out what's been happening there. That province, of course, performed really well, improving significantly this year. But let's just get one thing sorted out once and for all, because, you know, you go onto social media and conversations happen without full understanding. And one of them is this whole thing about you can pass your matric with 30%. And I just wonder, Deputy Minister said, if you could just kind of give us a context for this. And also, you know, if I'm leaving school, has this National Senior Certificate got a value if I don't get a bachelor pass?
Well, let's commence, and I'm glad you're raising this issue here. There are three types of passes. The first is the bachelor's pass, which requires a pass rate of more than 50% in 4 of the 7 subjects, and recognizing that English or the mother tongue, first language, as well as mathematics or mathematical literacy is a fundamental. In other words, those 2 subjects must be passed. So that's the first category. That would enable a learner to go to university. But universities also have their standards. In other words, if you have a bachelor's pass, it doesn't mean that you would automatically be allowed to be registered at university. They have their thresholds. The second category is the diploma pass. That is a category where you've got to have above 40% in 4 of the languages, 4 of the subjects, plus a pass in mathematics or mathematical literacy and home language. So that is a requirement. The third category, which is the lowest category, is the National Senior Certificate Examination with a 30% threshold. Now, as we stand right now, we've got 28.7% of our learners who had passed, got a bachelor's pass. About a third of the learners have got a diploma pass. These 2 categories would enable learners to go to either university or a university of technology. The third category would allow learners to go to a TVET college, for example, or allow learners to sit again for an improved pass, and that is why the Minister has introduced the important second opportunity for matriculants. Now, what is very interesting, and I just think that this is unnecessary anxiety. At the level of 30%, less than 100 of the more than 400,000 learners pass at 30%.
Okay.
Less than 1. In other words, it's 0.001%.
Okay.
So the argument, and I'll just conclude with that, is in fact the academics had told us, and the minister had set up a special task team to look at this matter. They say, what happens if a learner has distinctions in 6 subjects and has 30% in one of those? Are you going to disqualify that learner and exclude that learner? So you must provide for that
These
opportunity for learners who have overall been able to do extremely well, but may have one difficulty. And lastly, what
All
we
right,
have...
so I'm going to have to stop you because we've got to go to the Eastern Cape, but we'll come back and explore that a little bit more. Because Busisiwe Jamsana is in East London as we speak. Busisiwe, what's happening in the Eastern Cape? Also, I guess, joy at the improvement there.
Indeed, Peter, mixed feelings in the Eastern Cape. The province continues to be at the bottom of the ladder, but it has recorded an increase. And can you believe it, Peter? This is the highest record since 1994. So indeed, the province is enjoying the increase from last year. But I'm going to bring in the Education MEC, Mandla Makupula, to this discussion. MEC, a bittersweet feeling that the province is at the bottom of the ladder, but you have recorded an increase among the 2 provinces that have recorded an increase. Let's focus on what has worked for the province.
Thank you very much to you and your listeners and your watchers. Indeed, despite the fact that we ranked number last, with the second most improved province in the country following KZN, with a whopping 5.7%. It's quite an achievement, and we congratulate the class of 2017. Indeed, what worked very well was the fact that the Eastern Cape government, spearheaded by the Department of Education, developed a 3-year plan, 2016, 2017, 2018, the Education Systems Transformation Plan, which focused on creating an enabling environment. Now, 2017 has been the second year of that 3-year plan. The major lesson from there is that of all the things that we have identified and committed to on them, we implemented them without fail. And the greatest lesson is that once you commit to a thing, you stick to it, results are yielded. And we must stick to that plan. Specifically, amongst other things, the first thing we did was, amongst other things, to contract the Journey Consultancy, which has been working with the Free State province. They started in April. And we can see the difference in our mathematics and physical science, improving very remarkably. Mathematics from 37.5 to 42.3, 4.8%, and physical science from 49% to 57, a whopping 7.7%. The second thing we did was we were strong in reorganizing the system. From 23 districts, we took our districts down to 12 districts. It's the first year that we did that. The third point, which has been a very crucial point in the Eastern Cape, the delegation. All along, we've been centralizing things at head office, even appointing an ordinary teacher. But in 2017, we delegated down appointment of ordinary teachers and clerks to district directors. That shortened the period of appointing a teacher and eased the pressure from head office. And as a result, it was quite easier and quicker to appoint an educator. So we appointed educators quite a lot. The other thing we did was to strengthen our accountability on performance and underperformance. We're able to interact with different principals of schools that were not doing very well. And out of that, indeed, we were able to see results moving. Beyond that, it's a matters of also starting in time to ensure that we implement the program. The last push, for instance, to say the last 100 days of the year, what is it that a child needs to have understood is going to appear in an examination.
And speaking of collaboration with other provinces and contracting the consultancy that was working in Free State, improving the results in the province, but unfortunately it started mid-term, and perhaps this year would need to start early, hitting the ground running. What are some of the shortfalls that you think contributed to the province not reaching that 70% target, and that you're going to strengthen and make sure that come next year, the class of 2017 will double or even triple the results of this year?
Indeed, left with the last year of the 3-year plan 2018, we've said, let's stick to what is working. The great lesson is that what has worked, we must stick to it. And therefore, we're giving the opportunity to contract again this consultancy to start in January. Secondly, we continue with our strengthening our accountability on underperformance. We are also going on with our continuous creation of an enabling environment. One of the good things is the good relations that we have with our labor, the labor stability, good relations with teacher unions. That makes life very easy. Not that problems are not there, problems are there, but the open door policy to interact openly, to say when there's a problem, please come forward, let's address that. And indeed, the last thing also is to say, let's focus on the core business of the department, which is curriculum. We've started the 3-stream model, academic, vocational, and occupational, technical. Now we'll be paying much attention to that, and to ensure that our children and our teachers are taking very seriously the implementation of CAP's curriculum complexities.
MEC, thank you so much for your time. We'll be keeping up to date and keeping the conversation going with you. And that was MEC Mandla Makupula saying they are going to hit the ground running to make sure that they bring all the spheres that will make education in the province work, and also that deploying and appointing teachers is one of the strengths that has worked for the province, and they're going to continue with their 3-year plan. This is the year that they must make sure that they reach that 70% target. From us here in East London, it is back to you. We're taking a short break. Stay tuned to Morning Live.